Hello, welcome to another Drive-In Double Feature. I'm Ryan,
I'm Nathan.
and this is the podcast where we talk about two movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before I get into anything, we have a Patreon over at patreon.com/ Drive-In Double Feature podcast. Just going over there, we take you back to the past by talking about everyone's favorite Oscars, the 96th annual Oscars. I mean, it's like it was a nice trip down memory lane going down there and like remembering all the greatest hits of that evening. And
it was nice.
so if you want to hear us reminisce about our time during the 96th annual
We went way back.
way back, then go over there to the Patreon and give us a nice listen over there. It's only $5 a month. It doesn't affect any regular content. But today we're going to be talking about 1967's Gamera versus Gyaos. This is the second entry to the Banmara for the week, and it is also our third Gamera movie overall. Nathan, did you have any experience with this Gamera movie beforehand?
Like before, no. None at all.
Same here. Well, this one, it's a little, I think this one, this is more encompassing of what we're going to be expecting from other Gamera movies because kind of like what I had said before. So like the first Gamera movie was kind of like a mixture of tones. It was like serious dramatic movie with like a little bit of kid flair to it. The second one was played totally straight, no kids at all, no mentioning of fun times. And this one is straight up like a kids movie almost.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think it's a pretty fun time. I really enjoyed this one. It's pretty much what you expect from a movie like this, where they do have a couple of human characters, one of them being a small child, and the most of this movie is a lot of monster fighting.
Yeah, it's actually really surprising. I was watching this and I was just surprised there was a lot of monster destruction and fighting. No, I agree. This one's a lot of fun. I think it might might be my favorite, and maybe Gamera's really good, but this one's just like a lot of fun. And if this is like what's to come, I'm in for a good time.
Yeah, well, we'll see, because I'm going completely blind as well. So how it begins is, this is, Gamera is a well-known creature. He, last movie, he was kind of like sort of bad guy, sort of a good guy. He was like right in the middle, and because he was still destroying some towns, and
yeah.
But this one, he is straight up a savior to children. Like kids love this guy,
and especially our main kid.
Yeah, and it's funny, the kid that they got to be in this one, it's everyone, like when he was cast for the role, everyone said like how much he looked like the director, Yuasa.
I've seen pictures of the director, so I could see it.
Yeah, and everyone was just like, "Oh, you cast your son in the movie," and he's like, "No, I didn't. No,
I just liked the kid."
Yeah, well, I mean, they said he had a great personality, and he was really like really happy child, so they really wanted something like this. But kind of the backdrop to this movie is that this movie is set in a farming village. And now, normally, when you see a movie like this, I mean, kind of what you would expect, because like the plot is that this major corporation is wanting to tear down a farming village in order to build a highway or like a roadway of some sort. Now, you would think going into this that it would be like this evil corporation, and it's like these real innocent farmers that don't want to lose their homes, but no, this movie does a complete 180 on that trope, and it's like, no, these evil, greedy farmers
won't let us build the road.
Yeah,
They don't want the highway going through their land. What the hell?
Like that was like the whole thing. It's like if we're gonna hold out as long as we can to get as much money out of these people as we possibly can.
Yeah, it's an element I really liked because the whole time I was waiting for like, oh, this evil corporation is gonna be a bad guy. No, they're just holding out for money. If this was an Ishirio Honda movie, you know for sure, like the roadway people, the building people, the road would not be the heroes of the story.
Well, like because what was this? 5 years after King Kong versus Godzilla, and that one it was like a corporation kidnapped King Kong in order to have him be in a commercial, and so in this one it's like, oh no, it's the good guys, and so I did listen to the audio commentary for this movie.
Nice.
Stuart Galbraith
getting the most out of your physical copies, I see.
Yeah, I watched all the special features for this. So
that's good.
He explains though that it was supposed to be sort of not more seen as like the farmers are evil, but it's just like these construction workers were just trying to band together to get a job done efficiently.
They're just doing their job.
Yeah, so they're more seen as the good guys because they want to do a good job and get the road done.
No, exactly. And I think they do a good job of making them likable. I mean, they're definitely child friendly. Our main guy, he's a little boring, the leader of the construction group, but we have like two comic characters there that make the goofy faces and do all the slapstick stuff.
Yeah, and there's actually a really dark story to one of those characters.
I got to hear it now.
Yeah, so that the heavier set character, he was under contract to Daiei, and I guess they let him do a TV show. I can't remember the name of the TV show, but he got really popular on that TV show, and so a lot of TV shows were trying to like get him to be in their shows too. But Daiei did not want to let him go on to do that, so they enacted their contract. And he ended up just playing these one-off silly characters like he kind of does in Gamera, so he doesn't really get a chance to shine. And because of that, he saw his career as a total failure, and he actually died like a couple of months after this movie came out because he killed himself.
Wow. Oh my god. Okay. I thought it was going to be like later. I didn't know it was like right after this movie. Jeez.
No, he died the same year as this movie came out, and
Daiei was like, whatever. He couldn't live with his contract.
Well, so here's the thing for this movie, like that's kind of like the backdrop, like the setting the table for the movie is, Baragon, they pumped a lot more money into Baragon because the first Gamera was so much as a hit. And Baragon wasn't as much of a hit as they wanted it to be, but they still saw Gamera as a viable property. Now, when they did this movie, they're like, yeah, like so. Like I said, Yuasa was the guy that he made the first Gamera successful, and they punished him by taking away Gamera and making him just the effects director for the second one. And in this one, they're like, okay, you can have Gamera back, but we're going to give you less money. So it's like, but it's still seen as an A picture for this one.
Wow.
But it's not, doesn't have as much money as Baragon did. Or Barugon, excuse me. And
yeah, disgusting.
And the reason why I say this is that and they did like that whole suicide thing what that led up to is that Daiei was eventually investigated for like the killing, and it came out like in the reports that actually Daiei was about $11 million in debt to to all of its other debtors. And at that point they're like, it's fine. Everything's fine. Daiei's fine. Nobody, everything's okay. To be continued for that arc.
I'm excited to hear where this goes.
So I'm very interested, it's very interesting to see what happens. But yeah, it does not really work out from Daiei. But I mean, because things are not really looking so they're not releasing as many movies as they could. So, like I said, in 1962, Daiei released 73 movies in 1962. In 1967, they only released 50 of them.
Oh wow. Okay.
So it's a pretty big hit. And you could kind of attribute that to more so foreign movies at the time taking over the Japanese box office.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Um, there was a Japanese movie that ended up being the top grossing movie that year, The Sands of Karube, I believe it was called. But the second highest grossing movie of 1967 in Japan was You Only Live Twice.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
So this was seen, though, as the last Gamera movie in the Showa era to receive the time and money needed to make a production like this. So,
which is surprising because you can tell this one's a little, we're getting cheaper this time around.
If you believe it can go even lower, it can.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm actually really excited to see this go lower.
So, but anyway, that's when we going into, like I said, the construction team, they're going in and start ripping up this village. The little boy is the grandson of the elder that's there, and he runs into a reporter who wants to get the hot scoop because there's like a green aura like shooting out of the mountain, and the reporter wants to go investigate it, and so he kind of bribes this kid to go take him there. And I like the little exchange. It's like, hey, like you want to go see this cave? He's like, no, I don't want to do that. He's like, but it'll help me get the next big scoop. He's like, oh, a big scoop, huh? I like those too.
Yeah.
He likes big new scoops.
Yeah, new scoops, right? Yeah. So, not ice cream scoops.
They didn't say ice cream. He's an avid reader, of the paper.
Yeah, he loves staying informed.
Yeah, very very up to date child.
Well, I guess he knows about Gamera because he loves Gamera.
Loves Gamera. And when we do get the scene with him and the reporter, they go into the cave, and of course, while that's happening, the whole opening well, I didn't mention the whole opening sequence of why Gyaos is even awaking is due to volcanoes erupting in the area, and the volcanoes kind of awakens Gyaos from his lair or whatever, like his little
like underground layer.
And so like that's the thing. Yuasa, like I said, he wanted this to be a lot more kid friendly at the time, so he went into the kind of mindset of because if you've seen the beginning of the movie, they kind of have like an exposition dump like at the start of the movie.
Yes, yeah.
And that was intentional because he said during Gamera versus Barugon that a lot of the kids were not really paying attention during a lot of the human elements. So it's like, okay, let's just get all these boring scenes out of the way early so we don't have to do them again.
Yeah, and I think that's a smart idea, even for an adult watching the movie. Because, even as an adult, I'm like, we could get to the monster fighting stuff. I'd like to see that.
Well, I mean, it's just because there's later scenes where they do have the scientist scenes, but it's there's not that many. But I mean, it's like some of them though, because we've watched what, like 20 something of these, or at this point, or like 2 years worth of them, and at a certain point, you're like, okay, these scenes are just completely pointless and just really boring. And
yeah, in some of them, it's really bad. And I guess this one's nice because you have like the kid is usually always in those scenes in this one, and like I guess that's what makes it fun because he's like an outsider and like he ends up inputting ideas, like, but they won't listen to him because he's a kid. But he's like, oh, I think we should just wait for Gamera to save the day.
Yeah, exactly.
It adds something to it.
Well, yeah, and the kid's always present there, but it's funny because they took like a direct quote from Yuasa at the time, and they were one of his direct quotes was that he hated filming like the scientist scenes where it's like the scientists like sitting around the table, but he's like, I feel like I had to because every movie has one of those scenes. So he'd made it, but he said he tried to make it as painless, like a little more appealing, so that way the kid's always present, because and this movie too, the kid is like able to solve all the mysteries for Gauss, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's like, oh, Gauss only comes out at night, and it's like, what? But and
Yeah, yeah, and then they like take it as their own, or like I think that's how they discover Gauss's like laser beam that cuts through things, like slices through them.
yeah, but that's jumping a little ahead. I mean, because when the reporter and the kid go in there, because they what I like is they made this reporter a complete scumbag, where
Yeah.
like the the kid get like they like the cave starts caving in when Gal starts awaking, and the kid's like, I'm scared, save me, and the reporter runs off, and then
Yeah.
the reporter ends up getting eaten up by our main villain Gauss. And
What a great shot, by the way. I hadn't seen anything like that in one of these movies where it's a POV shot of him getting eaten by Gyaos. So you like go into the monster's mouth. I like that a lot.
yeah, what they said they did was they actually had him lie down, and they
Mm-hmm.
actually ran the backdrop horizontally, so that way it looked like he
Uh,
was shooting up into the sky.
I like that. I like that a lot. I guess I'll ask you what's your opinion on his design?
On Gauss's design.
Yeah,
Oh, I love it. It is.
it's great, right? Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't see. It's a really original design
Yeah.
for the time. I mean, because he's got like a triangular shaped head.
Mm-hmm.
He's got
Giant like
big
bat wings.
giant bat wings. He's got teeth. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he looks like a giant bat. I mean, what do you think?
No, I agree. Yeah, it looks like a giant bat. I really like the way his mouth moves. It's very like I can't even think of it, angular, I guess. Like it just kind of like it opens like in the same way and it closes and like
It's a beak, yeah.
it's a beak. Yeah, it's really cool. I don't know. I actually thought he was a pretty good monster. It felt original, but also back to basics. It's simple design, and he had simple powers too, just like the laser beam. And he can, just like monsters we've seen before. When he flies, he can make huge air currents.
Well, yeah, and that's how we know that he has a laser beam is there because when the volcano is erupting, laser beams are shooting up into the sky,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the laser beams hits the plane, and the plane crash. And
I will say I like that like whenever they do show off the laser, it's more comical. I guess after watching like modern monster movies, like let's say airplane gets sliced in half, it would be like horrible, tragic, people burning. And this it's like comedy. Like it's like a fake airplane gets chopped in half and like people are like falling through the middle of it.
yeah,
Same a car gets sliced later in the movie and the car like just drives with like two halves driving on the
I,
road. It's
what
funny.
it's like the cartoons when you see like a motorcycle with the sidecar gets split, and
Split.
like this,
Yeah.
and they're both running concurrently like next to each other.
Yeah. Whereas like if that scene was done nowadays, they'd be bloodied and a mess and
Oh
mangled
yeah,
on
oh
the
yeah, they
road.
would crash. The car would crash, and they wouldn't show any of the fun stuff. But it's funny though, because they do point this out in the commentary that when the half portion of the car is stopped, you could see like the kickstand where like the make the
Oh,
car stand
really?
out.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Um, but yeah, Gauss appears, and his design was, I mean, he's essentially Dracula, you're like, or a vampire of some
Yeah,
sort, and
you're right. Yeah.
that's what the direction they were going for, because they're like, oh well, if we have a Frankenstein monster, why can't we do a Dracula like monster? And
Mhm.
Gauss is, like you said, he's a bat. He hates sunlight, and he loves blood.
Oh yeah, he loves blood. Yeah, that's like a huge part of this. Especially in this movie is another one that's just a little violent. Gamera bleeds in this one.
There are some shockingly violent scenes in this
Mhm.
one. I mean, their first encounter, I mean, when Gauss appears, he shoots his laser beam and almost severs Gamera's arm, like clean off.
Yes, yeah, and it shows like the slice and Gamera's like blue blood flowing out. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, when does this happen? I think it's the later fight, but I have to bring it up since it's in my mind. I love when Gyaos is shooting lasers and Gamera dodges them, and he's just
Hmm.
like slowly moving his head forward, back, and then he like puts his head back inside of his shell to dodge a laser. Great sequence, very
Yeah.
inspired.
No, yeah, he does little things like that too. Like when Gamera retracts into his shell and he rolls down the hill and Gyaos is shooting his laser and it's bouncing off of Gamera's shell.
Yeah, it does fun stuff like that.
There's so they have that little scene and Gamera's already pretty hurt, automatically showing you like what a threat Gyaos is. And the little boy has been captured by Gyaos and Gamera does save him, and you know what? He gives the little kid a ride, and
yep, I like it. And he's riding on his back, and he's just having a good time.
He's having a good time.
Yeah, I think they like mention it later that like the kid's like, yeah, no, he didn't do any spinning. So Gamera's my friend. He didn't want to hurt me.
Yeah, so this movie is fully versed in like Gamera is the savior to children.
Yes, yeah, and I'm down with it. That's cool. Like I gotta like the concept of like this giant kaiju being like a best friend with children.
Yeah, I mean, there's something nice about it. It's just like a movie is like completely unafraid to do something like that. Where it's because I mean, that instinctively you're thinking, oh, this has got to be serious. I mean, we do appreciate the Godzilla movies and.
Oh yeah, like the Smog Monster movie and stuff like that, like the sillier side. Like we appreciate those, but
this all predates those movies, though.
Crazy,
so I mean,
right?
This one was kind of like ahead of its time, really. Like while Godzilla was trying to be a lot more serious, even though because this was leading up to Destroy All Monsters at this point, I believe. So it was kind of like, oh wow, like no, we're just going to get rid of all the boring, we're not going to try to even make this a serious movie. Like this is a movie for children.
No, I agree. And yeah, I see that. Like I see what you're saying. It was just like that. It's kind of like nice to see it like embracing that. It's not afraid. It's not embarrassed. It is what it is. I enjoy that.
And speaking of Destroy All Monsters, the suit actor for Gamera was also the suit actor for Rodan and Destroy All Monsters.
Nice. Okay, cool. Perfect. Look, he's getting work at every studio.
Yeah, he's one of the few that actually crossed over. But I think that was the whole point of that was because there were so many, they needed so many suit actors that they had to start pulling to other movies. Yeah. But yeah, leading into this though, like Gamera does save the child, and Gamera has to sort of retreat underwater. And there's this really nice sequence I thought, like where Gamera's like healing himself, underwater,
and the blood's like kind of flowing out in the water.
And the little boy is like imagining it, and the scene kind of the lights dim, and the kid that fades to Gamera, so they're both images are like superimposed on each other. So it's like the kid is like imagining Gamera underwater, and that was actually only like a little 20 centimeter long Gamera figure. They said that they put into an aquarium.
Love it. That's pretty cool, actually.
And one other notable fact is that anytime you see Gamera breathing fire, that is the first Gamera suit from the first Gamera movie.
Gotcha. Okay, because that had like that whole thing inside of it, right? To like shoot off fire.
Yeah, and just because it was a much, they didn't want anything to happen to the new suit in case if it caught fire to the old one, it was okay.
But the suit actor, whatever, expendable.
Whatever. Yeah. That's if you're not in it to make the movie, then you need to get out if you're not willing to put your life on the line.
Exactly. That's why we got all these vampire bats, and we're gonna try to set them loose, but we started like a plague again, and we had to kill them all. It sucks.
Yeah, just like all those rats.
Yeah, the rats. Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of what happens, and there are some funnier scenes where they have like a scene where they're explaining what Gyaos is. It's like, well, since he's a bat, we're going to assume that he has a forked throat. Like he's like he has these two passageways in his throat. Like, yeah, this is what we assume he looks like. Just
the anatomy of him
based off of nothing. Like,
yeah. Kind of like I love like their plan to like kill him. I mean, we're missing a lot because there's the road work plot, I guess.
Well, yeah, they have that where like they abandon it, but it's like only 3 of the workers stay behind
Yeah, I
to
won't say
finish the
that
job.
this plot line's like heavily important, but it's fine. It's not nearly as boring as some that I've seen before.
Well, yeah, no, and one of the middle scenes is like we get Gamera and Gyaos have like another encounter where Gamera gets like hit in the head by like the laser, and he's like spurting blood from his head,
That's right. Yeah.
and they fall into the water, and Gamera bites off Gauss's
Yeah.
foot.
Yeah, and it's like the other half is like floating in the water, and like there's
Yeah,
like blood and everything. It's kind of crazy.
yeah, that was a crazy sequence because that's where they find out that Gauss hates sunlight because his head starts turning red and
Hmm.
his body shrinks when it's in the sunlight.
Yeah, yeah. I also like the scene after where he can regenerate, and like it's one of the few times where monsters have like you could look at like this puppet's face or this suit's face and know what it's feeling. And like he like closes his eyes like, oh, this sucks. This hurts so
Uh,
much.
that was the funniest part of the movie for me because
Yeah.
there's a scene. So like you said, it's you could see like it's regenerating his toes. Like his toes
Hmm.
are like shooting out of his foot, like
Hmm.
like they're growing back. And there's a scene where like a rock falls like on it, and you could see like as soon as it hits
That's
his
right.
foot, that's when his eyes close. It's just like,
Oh,
ah,
like when you stub your toe, like
yeah.
dang it, ow. Yeah, it's so funny because like you don't see that pain in these fights, but he hits his toe
that
and he's like, oh god
that
damn it.
that was probably like the most realistic face like a monster has made in a movie.
Yeah, I kind of loved it. It helped me love this guy.
Yeah, and but yeah, that's what you said though. Like they're big killing sequences that they're going to put a pedestal of fake blood
Hmm.
onto like this spinning tower and get
Uh-huh.
Gauss stuck on there and spin him to death until the sun comes out.
Yep, make him dizzy. Yeah, because I don't. There's no like. I don't know how they make this leap. I think the kid said something about being dizzy, and they're like, "That's it. We're going to kill him by making him dizzy." And I don't even understand how they got there, but whatever. It leads to some funny stuff of Gyaos on top of the tower spinning around and just
Just
drinking the bowl of blood.
yeah, exactly. That's
How
that's
did
the
they get this
visual.
giant blood bowl of blood?
I can't remember. Was it actually blood?
I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I think so.
Yeah, just a really ridiculous scene. I mean,
Uh
just
huh.
he's on there spinning and everything, but there's a lot more scenes like that where they have like little mini battles between themselves, and
Hmm.
Gauss almost cuts off Gamera's turtle tail.
Yeah, like his little tail gets clipped. I like that. So Gamera comes out of this always getting hurt.
Yeah, and but you know what? Gamera does get the upper hand in the end because the sun starts to come out and it makes Gauss weak,
Hmm.
and Gamera just throws his dead body into the volcano.
Yeah, I like that. He just like throws him in. It's over. He's in the volcano. Gamera saves the day.
Yeah, it's this movie. There's not a whole lot of fat to this movie. I mean, it's
No.
pretty. It's just under uh 90 minutes,
Hmm.
and it's to me, like I said, it's is it going to be like a real thought provoking movie that makes you think? No, but it's a pretty fun time, and like I said, I think I liked it better than the original movie, like better than the Gamera movie.
Yeah, I was about to say that like after talking about it just now. Yeah, I do think I like it better than the original Gamera. There's just something about this one that's like not afraid to be fun, and then that makes it just like pure fun from start to finish.
Yeah, and it's what I really enjoyed and made me like this movie more. Like I said, it made me feel like a kid again, like watching these movies. It's
Mhm.
like, oh man, it's like I keep like thinking like, man, if I had just had this when I was a kid, I would have watched this a bunch or
Mhm.
whatever. On the commentary though, like they were talking about that, like Yuasa, the he like he was so like he really loved talking about these movies, and he said like even in his old age, like when he was talking to the Stuart Galbraith during this, is that like even like he said like Yuasa would still like get on the floor and like show him like how Gamera would crawl and everything, and even like Yuasa's wife, you know, like after he had passed, like still said that, you know, she's really glad that, you know, that these movies have like a following again, and that, you know, people are able to enjoy these types of movies. And
that's awesome.
And a lot of the people who worked on the movie too, like the reporter guy, like he was still alive like during like when the Blu-ray came out. And
oh, cool.
And he still spoke really fondly of the movie and said, you know, like this is still one of his favorite movies that he ever got to make, even though he said he was been like an actor for the last 50 years. So
well, I love to hear that like people like loved making these. Where like Honda on Godzilla was like, yeah, that was the worst movie I ever made. That was miserable.
Just like just totally miserable. Like did not want to even be associated with these movies. And it's like, and you got everyone else being like, no, yeah, it was a good time. And just
we all had a great time on this one.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a really fun movie. I mean, I had a pretty good time watching it. As far as the box office, you know, it had a budget of 60 million yen, making about 97 million yen. So
that's
pretty decent hit.
Yeah.
Not exactly what they wanted, but you know, it made money. But like I said, the financial woes from this movie, because they Dai is not really looking so hot right now, like I said, and it's not really looking good for the future. And this would probably, like I said, this would be the last Gamera movie that would really receive like a budget needed to make a movie of this nature before. And we'll have to see what's more to come, but I'm still pretty interested to seeing it. Like I said, I definitely give this one a recommend.
Same here. This one's really good. This is like a really fun monster movie. Highly recommend it.
Definitely. But I think that's it. I mean, I think so.
Yeah, it was very cut and dry movie.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like there's not a whole lot to say. I mean, I can't sit here and commentate on all the fighting scenes because it's a very visual heavy movie. So all I can say is if you sound interested, you should definitely check it out.
Sure.
But Nathan, what are we going to be talking about next week?
All right, Ryan, I think it's important that, you know, we're moving into a new month and we're not themed or anything. We're just back to the basics. But I wanted to make or give some things a chance. We have gotten recommendations in our email, and be sure to send more. But we're going to take some of those recommendations, and I'm going to take some of those recommendations and I'm going to talk about them. So first up, we are going to talk about one of our recommended movies, and that's Rockstar, starring Mark Wahlberg. I was highly requested to do this one. Very interesting choice, but that isn't streaming anywhere. I mean, but Ryan, what are we going to be talking about on Thursday?
Well, Nathan, it is the month of May. So what's the number one thing on people's minds right now?
I don't know. What?
Well, Nathan, it's that time of year again. It is prom night.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay. We're back at it again.
We're going to go back.
Wait, has it been a year?
It has been a year.
Oh my God. Time flies, man.
So we're going to go back to prom. You know, we had a fun time at the last prom. We're going to go to another prom. We're going to go to another random high school's prom and talk about it. And we're going to, and that, but don't worry, if you don't, you can watch Prom Night 2, and that is streaming for free over on Tubi. Well, yeah, I'm excited to watch both of those movies, Nathan. Cannot wait. But if you have any thoughts and opinions on what we just talked about this week, please email us over at driveanddoubleFeaturePodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on X at DIDFpod. And once again, check out the Patreon at patreon.com/driveanddoubleFeaturePodcast. But until next time.